Hi, my name's Jesse Goldberg.
And I'm Brian Cumming.
And welcome to the show. We have as our guest today, Richard Courtney.
Hello.
Who is like a Beatle expert.
I am.
Right?
That's right.
And a real estate expert.
Even better.
Right.
Yeah.
And you've written 3 books, which we have right here on this table.
All 3.
One is called, the first one, which one was first?
I wrote this one first.
I Never Saw a Beatle.
Right.
Was the first one. And then it came Buyers Are Liars and Sellers Are Too. You know, I was in McKay's the other day, and I said, I'm having this guy Richard Courtney on, and I said he wrote this book, and she said, oh, you mean the one about real estate?
That's great.
So they knew about the real estate one, but
That's
didn't know about
because they're taking to McKay's as quickly as they buy them and turn them in.
And the other one, the newer one, is called Come Together, which you wrote with George Cassidy.
That's right. That's a great one.
Okay, so start from the beginning. Who are you, and what did you know?
Well, I'm Richard Courtney. I'm from Columbia, Tennessee originally, although I was born on Knob Road just across the street when my father was at Vanderbilt Law School. And then we went to Columbia. And
what was that at Vanderbilt Law School?
My father was at Vandy Law School when I was born.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he went to Columbia to practice law with his father-in-law. And I was raised in Columbia, and I was playing with some toy soldiers one day and listening to my friend's 16-year-old sisters listen to Elvis Presley. And this was the post-war Presley with all the Jordanaires who we love, but still he'd gotten a little soft, I thought. And
Post-war, post-Army?
Post-Army, yes.
Okay.
Well, it was a war for him, but Army for others.
Okay, post-Army.
Yeah, and then one day they
I got the hoop, 2, 3, 4, GI Blue.
Right, there's all that, and yeah, Viva Las Vegas and so on. So I heard I Want to Hold Your Hand for the first time, and I left the toy soldiers behind and never came back, and listened to that album. And on the cover, on the liner notes, it says you'd have to be a hermit not to know who the Beatles are. And I thought, well, I don't know what a hermit is, but I must be one because I don't know who they are. But I became enamored with them at age 8, soon to be age 9, and I saw them on Jack Parr actually the night John Kennedy was killed, and I was excited about them. And then saw them, of course, on February the 9th, '64.
They were on Jack Parr before.
Yeah, Parr.
I saw them on television back in '63.
Yeah, because we were watching TV all day because Kennedy had been killed,
my
the president
gosh.
had been shot.
I didn't know they were on the Jack Parr show.
Yeah, that's their U.S. debut.
But it was an excerpt from some British footage.
Yeah, it was British footage of I Want to Hold Your Hand and She Loves You. And the girls were screaming. Beatlemania was
so
in.
they weren't really on, they were just...
No, he showed the
footage,
clip.
okay.
Well, you knew who they were by then.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was.
You were like an early Beatle person.
Early Beatles, yes.
I didn't know anybody in America. You're probably among 100 people that had heard that song before November of '63.
Yeah.
What did they sing on the Jack Parr show?
63. They sang I Want to Hold Your Hand and She Loves You, that I recall.
You know, She Loves You is such a complicated song.
Yeah.
And it sounds so simple.
Yeah,
you know?
You've heard the Norman Smith, the engineer story. By then they had done I Love Me Do and P.S. I Love You and Beso Me Mucho and From Me to You even. And then he's taking down She Loves You, and he has just the lyrics on the stands, and he reads, She loves you, yeah, 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 she loves you, yeah. Well, this is really not going to work at all, because they were still not, very popular at that point. And then he heard it and said, okay, this works.
Right. Think you lost your love.
Yeah, I saw her yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Norman Smith, the engineer.
The engineer, right.
Who recorded that song.
Right, he recorded up until Revolver, and then, of course, Jeff Emmerich took over at that point.
Yeah.
And then we have another guy, Ken
Scott.
Ken Scott, even later on, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think Scott filled in when Emmerich quit for the White Album, right? Is that?
During
he
this,
did most of the White Album.
Yeah, because Emmerich was fed up and came back. Yeah, came in.
I wouldn't have quit that job.
Well,
So
you may have.
Did you just start learning about the Beatles? You just couldn't get enough of them?
Well, yeah, at the time, and we couldn't get enough information on them because we only had television and some magazines. Fanzines would come in, and 16 magazine.
Were you aware of the British releases as distinct from the American?
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay.
I had no idea. And I really think, contrary to what most people write, and the Beatles think themselves, is that Capitol did it right. Is that I don't think Please Please Me, the first record that was released in Britain, would have worked at all here. As a matter of fact, when I bought it as Meet the Beatles, after I already had, I bought it as Introducing the Beatles after I had Meet the Beatles on Capitol with I Want to Hold Your Hand and all the hits and She Loves You. My parents were kind of actually, they were getting a little nervous about me because I was such a fan already at age 9. And I said, I don't really like this one so well because it had all those other songs, Chains and Anna and some of the others that I didn't like so much.
Well, that's because they didn't write those.
A Taste of Honey, yeah. Yeah,
it was. That was on the original
Please Please Me, yeah. And so I liked Meet the Beatles better anyway. So I think Capitol turning them down the first few records was actually the right thing for Capitol to have done, and eventually
for an American audience. Maybe a crucial part of the
right. And you know more about this than I with your ear, but you know they brightened it so much here too, and I think that worked out. When I played the British versus the American, I think at the time with the audience that the brightness might have helped.
And were the American records done in stereo too? But it was artificial.
Artificial stereo, right? They recorded mono. Yeah.
Have you heard any of the remastered vinyl ones?
I have. I do. I have all of those.
What do you think?
I think that it's great to have vinyl backups. As a matter of fact, there's someone in Madison that has a warehouse about as big as a studio full of Techniques, tuners, and Advent speakers, and turntables and everything. And for $600, you can get the old set, just like I paid about $1,200 for in college. So it's actually a bargain. So I listen to all the old vinyl.
But what do you think about the remaster thing? Did they improve it? Did they not improve it? In your opinion, everybody has different opinions on it.
Yeah, I think they improved it. I think it sounds better than the first time around.
But what about
now?
I have both the
but
remastered.
I have a 58-year-old ear now.
I have both the remastered vinyl and the remastered CD.
Yeah.
I really like the remastered CD, but I'm really a minority here.
Well, on the remastered vinyl versus remastered CD, that's apples to oranges. I mean, the remastered vinyl versus the original vinyl is head and shoulders better. And I haven't actually listened to the CD, the remastered CD.
Oh, the remastered CD from about 3 years ago or so. I don't know where it was, but I really like them. They come in digital packs rather than jewel cases.
Yeah, I got those at Amoeba, in your old stomping grounds in LA. The Amoeba Music. That's a great store. Have you been there?
Wow, no.
Oh, it's a great store. They have it online now. It's really good too. They have more Beatles things than you can shake a stick at. Yeah.
So what do you do for a living? You're a real estate person.
I am, and that supports my Beatles habit.
What do you sell?
I sell residential real estate, mainly around this area, all over town. Really.
Residential, like a real estate.
Like
broker.
Houses, yeah.
All right. Well, just briefly, let's talk about this. Buyers are liars and sellers are too.
Right.
What does that mean?
Well, that was therapeutic. I'd been through a number of situations. By then, I'd sold 300 or 400 houses, and I noticed that the same problems kept occurring over and over when the buyer or seller tried to outthink the other one. And really, there's not that much to it. And so, I thought I'd write a little brochure and explain these are the things that will come up during the transaction, and here's how you should handle them. And then it turned into that.
What's the big lie that buyers have, and the big lie that sellers have?
Well, my favorite one on buyers, and it's a person who lives here in town. His name's Leonard Pogue, and he knows he's in there, and he's a well-known attorney here in town. He said when he bought, I only have this criteria. I will not live on a corner lot. It cannot have a double yellow line. I will not take a stone house. It can only be one story.